Security Log, Galactic Date 4728.3. I am Chief Warden Kristallos of the Maximus 9 Containment Facility. What you are about to see defies explanation. Even after serving as warden for 30 cycles, human criminals continue to surprise us. Subject 371 was contained in our most secure cell. Quantum-locked energy barriers, gravity manipulation set to 3G, continuous neural suppression, and round-the-clock AI monitoring. By all known physics, movement should have been impossible. Watch the timestamp, 0300 hours. The neural suppressors are active. You can see the readings. Now, there. Did you see it? That twitch? Our scientists said the human nervous system should have been completely dormant. But somehow, Subject 371 was fighting through it. Watch their fingers. 0347 hours. The gravity control was still at full power, but look at how they're moving. Every motion calculated, conserving energy. 3 weeks of absolute stillness had led our AI to lower pattern monitoring by 0.02%. A mistake. They had been testing, waiting, learning our systems the entire time. 0349 hours. What happens next? This is why human criminals are considered the most dangerous sentients in known space. They didn't try to break the quantum lock. They used it. Somehow they understood that the energy barrier's own containment field could be. I still don't fully understand the physics of what they did. 7 minutes, that's all it took from first movement to full breach. 3 months of preparation for 7 minutes of execution. This is why I'm recording this warning. Because human criminals don't just break our systems, they understand them, adapt to them, and turn them against us in ways we never thought possible. I've served as Chief Warden of Maximus 9 for 3 decades. Our facility orbits a dead star in neutral space, specifically designed to house the most dangerous criminals from 17 different species. The station itself is a marvel of containment engineering, a 12-kilometer sphere of quantum-reinforced alloys and adaptive security systems. Each species requires unique containment protocols. The gaseous nebulons need magnetic bottling. The silicon-based petrovasians require thermal regulation chambers. The psychic mentari are held in psi-dampening fields. But humans required us to completely redesign our security philosophy. The human section occupies less than 2% of our facility, but consumes 15% of our security resources. Every surface is quantum mapped to detect tampering. The air recyclers have molecular filters to prevent tool creation from dust particles. Even the light fixtures are designed to be impossible to disassemble. We learned each of these measures the hard way. Most species, when imprisoned, follow predictable patterns. They attempt escape using their natural abilities or known technologies. But humans, they don't just try to break out. They study. They experiment. They combine concepts in ways our predictive AI can't anticipate. And most worryingly, they share knowledge. That's why I'm making this report, because after 30 years, after thousands of security upgrades, after consulting with the finest minds in containment theory, humans still manage to surprise us. And in a maximum security prison, surprises are something we cannot afford. Let me tell you about Subject 247, a human female captured after a series of high-profile heists across the Centauri sector. Standard containment protocols were deemed sufficient at first. That was our first mistake. We placed her in a 3G containment cell, triple Earth's gravity. Our xenobiologists assured us this would render any human physically helpless. For most species, even 2G is enough to completely immobilize them. The first week, she appeared appropriately subdued, barely able to move. Then we discovered she had been conditioning herself. By week 3, she could stand. By week 5, she could walk. Our medical staff was baffled. Her muscle density was increasing despite conditions that should have caused rapid atrophy. She was somehow adapting to an environment that our computers said should have been physically devastating. Then came the incident. During a routine cell inspection, she appeared to have a medical emergency. When our medical officer entered, another mistake, we witnessed something unprecedented. Her adrenaline spike was off our measuring scales. In 3G conditions, she moved faster than our guards could react, using the medical officer's own crystalline body structure as a weapon. She disabled 4 guards before we could activate emergency protocols. 4 guards in triple gravity. The energy expenditure alone should have caused unconsciousness. But humans, we learned, have this ability called an adrenaline rush. a temporary override of their physical limitations. Most species evolve away from such dangerous mechanisms. Humans? They weaponize them. We eventually contained her, of course, but the incident forced us to completely redesign our understanding of human physical capabilities. It's not just their strength or speed, it's their adaptability. Their bodies don't just endure hardship, they actively evolve to overcome it. What doesn't kill them, as they say, makes them more dangerous. Subject 247 remains in custody, but her incident led to 17 major security upgrades. And still, I sometimes catch her testing her limits, probing for weaknesses. That's another thing about human criminals. They never stop trying, never stop adapting, never stop learning. The physical capabilities of human criminals are concerning, yes, but their mental advantages? Those keep me awake during sleep cycles. Let me show you security footage from Cell Block H 3 months ago. Watch this human prisoner during standard meal delivery. Nothing unusual, correct? Now watch 6 different meal deliveries spread across 2 months. Most species follow exact patterns. They eat the same way, at the same pace, in the same position. But this human? Each movement is slightly different. They're testing the timing of the delivery system, mapping its patterns. See how they drop their utensil at different moments? They're measuring the guard response times. But it gets worse. Remember the standard issue meal tray? Completely safe, right? Watch what this same prisoner created over 3 weeks. The mineral supplements in their food? They extracted and crystallized them. The protein paste? They dried it into a binding agent. Even the tray itself, they found a way to stress fracture it along molecular lines to create sharp edges. Their pattern recognition abilities are extraordinary. Another prisoner figured out our guard rotation algorithms just by tracking shadow patterns from the light fixtures. We had to completely randomize our security protocols. But even randomization follows patterns, and humans excel at finding them. Most concerning is their ability to think abstractly. Look at this recreation area incident. This prisoner didn't just see exercise equipment, they saw leverage points, potential energy storage, and improvised pulleys. They turned a completely safe rehabilitation facility into a physics-based weapon in under 4 minutes. We've had to implement what we call human thought simulations in our security AI. But here's the truly frightening part. Humans can make cognitive leaps that our most advanced AI cannot predict. They see connections that, by any logical analysis, shouldn't exist. And they share these insights with each other through methods we still don't fully understand. Every item, every system, every protocol must be analyzed not just for its intended purpose, but for how a human might repurpose it. And still, they surprise us. As one of my colleagues put it, humans don't just think outside the box. They forget the box exists, build something new from its components, and make you question why you thought it was a box in the first place. The incident I'm about to describe led to the complete restructuring of our interspecies containment protocols. It began with Subject 189, a human male convicted of running elaborate confidence schemes in the Orion sector. Initially, he appeared to be a model prisoner, cooperative, quiet, respectful to guards. Classic warning signs. If only we'd known better. During permitted exercise periods, he began what seemed like innocent conversations with a Mentari prisoner, a psychic species we kept under psi dampeners. Nothing suspicious in their interactions. But watch his hand movements during these conversations. He wasn't just talking, he was teaching the Mentari sign language he had created using simple exercise motions. Within 2 months, he had made contact with 7 different species across 3 security levels. Each thought they were simply learning human exercise techniques. In reality, he was building an interspecies communication network that completely bypassed our surveillance systems. But that was just the foundation of his plan. Next came the guard manipulation. Humans have this ability, they call it cold reading, to analyze micro-expressions, even in species that don't have faces as they understand them. He began tailoring his behavior to each guard's psychological profile. For the duty-focused, he was the perfect prisoner. For the intellectually curious, he asked engaging questions about their species. But his masterpiece? He convinced a Petrovasian prisoner, a silicon-based life form with natural crystalline growths, that they were actually distant genetic cousins of my species. Complete nonsense, scientifically. But the Petrovasian believed it. Soon they began sharing this theory with our junior guards, who found the idea fascinating. Do you see what he did there? He created a social bridge between prisoners and guards using a completely fabricated cultural connection. This led to subtle relaxations in security protocols. Nothing major, just small courtesies. But combined with his communication network, these tiny gaps became significant security breaches. Within 6 months, he had created what we now call a social ecosystem, a complex web of relationships, favors, and information flow. When we finally discovered the full scope of his network, it was staggering. He had connected 15 different species across 4 security levels, created 3 separate languages using exercise movements, and had guards unconsciously carrying messages through their changed behavior patterns, all without ever leaving his cell block or violating a single major security protocol. The most disturbing part? When we confronted him, he simply smiled and said, "I was bored." Humans don't just build social networks, they create entire hidden societies. They don't just manipulate individuals, they reshape entire cultural systems. And they do it so naturally that you don't realize it's happening until they've already succeeded. Our facility uses Class 9 AI security systems, quantum encrypted force fields, and predictive behavior algorithms refined over centuries. Yet somehow, human criminals consistently find ways to turn our own technology against us. Let me show you what Subject 456 accomplished with just a food synthesizer and basic cleaning protocols. The synthesizer was designed to create nutritionally balanced meals while being completely incapable of producing anything useful for escape. Subject 456 spent 3 weeks asking for different meal combinations. We thought she was just picky. In reality, she was mapping the synthesizer's molecular assembly patterns. On day 23, she made her move. By requesting specific meal combinations while the cleaning system was active, she managed to create a feedback loop in the molecular assembly process. The resulting resonance pattern temporarily disrupted our quantum fields. It should have taken years of advanced physics education to even conceive of this possibility. She learned it by watching her food materialize. Our AI prediction models failed completely. They were programmed to watch for traditional escape attempts, tampering with hardware, attacking guards, creating weapons. But the AI never considered that someone could turn the molecular noise from food synthesis into a quantum field disruptor. As one human prisoner later told us, "Your AI thinks in straight lines, we think in circles." Even more concerning is the speed at which humans adapt to new technology. We introduced quantum-locked containment fields, supposedly impossible to breach without advanced understanding of 11-dimensional physics. Within 2 weeks, a human prisoner had figured out that humming at specific frequencies could create microscopic instabilities in the field matrix. We've had to implement what we call the human factor in all our security upgrades. It's no longer enough to make systems technically secure. We have to assume that human prisoners will find connections and possibilities that our most advanced AI systems cannot predict. As one of our security chiefs said, humans don't see technology as unbreakable systems. They see it as puzzles waiting to be solved. Most species have clear biological limitations that make containment predictable. Mentari require exactly 6 hours of regenerative stasis. Petrovasians shut down completely at temperatures below freezing. But humans? Their survival adaptations make them nightmarishly difficult to contain. Take Subject 323. During a 3-week observation period, we documented them staying awake for 72 hours straight, then sleeping for just 2 hours, then remaining alert for another 50 hours. Our medical staff thought their brain would show severe deterioration. Instead, they maintained full cognitive function. They were manually controlling their sleep cycles to map our guard rotations. Their dietary adaptability is equally concerning. When we restricted Subject 291 to basic nutrient paste, they began eating the packaging material. Our analysis showed they were extracting trace minerals and processing them through their digestive system with surprising efficiency. They can literally survive on substances that would poison most species. Temperature resistance, we had a cooling system malfunction that dropped cell block D to near freezing. The Petrovasian inmates shut down as expected. The human? They stripped insulation from their sleep pad, created makeshift clothing, and maintained normal activity levels. When the temperature rose to uncomfortably hot levels during repairs, they simply adapted their breathing patterns and continued their routine. But their pain tolerance, that's perhaps the most disturbing trait. Subject 129 dislocated their own shoulder to escape restraints, then continued functioning normally. The medical readings showed pain levels that should have rendered them unconscious. Instead, they seemed to enter some kind of focused state, using the pain to enhance their alertness. These aren't isolated incidents. Every human prisoner demonstrates these traits to varying degrees. They can go without sleep until the perfect moment presents itself. They can eat almost anything and extract useful materials. They endure temperature extremes that would incapacitate other species. And most worryingly, they can push through pain that our medical AI classifies as functionally impossible to endure. As one of our xenobiologists noted, humans didn't evolve to be the strongest, fastest, or most resilient species. They evolved to survive anything the universe throws at them. In a prison context, this makes them uniquely dangerous. Because how do you contain a species that treats survival itself as a skill to be mastered? The Artemis incident, even now, years later, mentioning it causes my crystalline structure to resonate with anxiety. It began with the arrival of Subject 741, a human female captured after orchestrating a series of impossible heists across 3 sectors. We should have recognized the pattern. She had never been caught unless she wanted to be. For 6 months, she was the perfect prisoner, followed every rule, maintained a precise schedule, never caused trouble. Our AI systems rated her rehabilitation probability at 92%. Another warning sign we missed. She wasn't being rehabilitated. She was conducting the most thorough security analysis in prison history. The first phase of her plan was so subtle we only understood it in retrospect. During exercise periods, she would perform these elaborate stretching routines. Beautiful to watch, our guards said. In reality, she was mapping blind spots in our quantum sensor grid by observing microscopic delays in the warning buzzers. Phase 2 involved the food synthesizer. She would request meals with specific mineral contents, claiming dietary requirements. Each meal contained trace elements that, when metabolized by the human digestive system, created a compound that could temporarily interfere with our telepathic monitoring systems. She was literally turning her own body into a security countermeasure. The third phase targeted our AI. She began having philosophical discussions with other inmates about free will and consciousness. Our AI, programmed to analyze all prisoner conversations, began devoting increasing processing power to these discussions. A subtle digital traffic jam, building over months. On the day of the attempt, everything converged. She triggered a quantum field fluctuation by perfectly timing her exercises with the sensor blind spots. The biochemical compounds in her system created a telepathic dead zone. The AI, still processing philosophical debates, delayed its response by 1.3 seconds. She had created a perfect storm of security gaps. But here's the true genius. That wasn't even her real escape plan. The entire sequence was a distraction. While our security forces responded to the obvious breach, she had already compromised our maintenance android network using a code sequence she had tapped out over months of casual drumming on her cell floor. The android simply walked her out through a service corridor. We recovered her eventually, found her sitting in the station's main control room, drinking synthesized coffee. She had complete access to our systems, but hadn't left the station. When asked why, she said, "To prove a point." She had orchestrated the most sophisticated prison break in history, not to escape, but to expose every flaw in our security. The Artemis incident led to the complete redesign of our security protocols. But more importantly, it demonstrated how human criminals combine every trait we've discussed: physical adaptation, mental acuity, social manipulation, technological intuition, and survival instincts into devastating combinations. They don't just break out of prisons. They solve them, like complex puzzles, using every resource available no matter how long it takes. Physical security we can upgrade, technology we can improve, but the psychological warfare human criminals wage, that's what truly sets them apart. They don't just try to break our systems. They get inside our minds, even species that don't think anything like them. Take Subject 529's deception techniques. Over 6 months, he developed 3 distinct personalities. One for guard interactions, one for prisoner interactions, and one for medical staff. Each persona was meticulously crafted to elicit specific responses. The guard persona was respectful but slightly nervous, triggering protective instincts. The medical persona displayed minor symptoms that kept him under observation. Perfect consistency in each role. But here's the devastating part. None of these were his real personality. They were all constructs, masks designed to make each group see what they expected to see. When we finally realized this, we reviewed his psychological baseline. It didn't exist. He had been wearing masks since the moment he arrived. We still don't know his true personality. Their misdirection techniques are equally sophisticated. Subject 663 spent weeks complaining about the light levels in her cell. Maintenance adjusted them 17 times. Security installed new sensors. Medical ran vision tests, all while she was actually mapping the power grid fluctuations caused by each adjustment. The light sensitivity? Complete fabrication. False compliance is another specialty. They don't just follow rules, they weaponize their obedience. Subject 892 became so perfectly compliant that we reduced security protocols by 15%. He helped other prisoners follow rules, reported potential problems, became a model of rehabilitation. For 3 years. 3 years of perfect behavior, all to create a baseline of trust that he could exploit in a single crucial moment. Most disturbing is their ability to manipulate guards across species barriers. They identify individual psychological weak points with frightening accuracy. One human prisoner convinced a crystalline guard, a being with completely alien psychology, that they shared a spiritual connection. The guard's resonance patterns actually changed to match the prisoner's brainwaves. We still can't explain how this is possible. As our chief psychologist put it, humans don't just understand psychology, they weaponize empathy itself. They turn our own perceptions, beliefs, and emotional responses into tools of manipulation. And they do it so subtly that by the time you realize what's happening, they've already succeeded.